Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Soyla Quesada. I am your host for Two Kids, One Doctorate. In the month of May, I am inviting other single mothers to share their story. For each mother that is being interviewed, I am asking them the same five questions for to get consistency in the questions that I'm being asked. Of course, there are maybe some leniency in terms of follow-up questions to things that we will be talking about. Our guest tonight is Roxana. She is from Austin, Texas, and she is a mom of six. And welcome, Roxana. And before we get into these five questions, which, as I said to you, only five questions, let's see how long we'll be here for. Please share a little bit about yourself before we kind of dive into those questions.
Okay, absolutely. Excuse me. Yes, my name is Roxana, and I am a mom of six. My story is a little interesting, and somewhat common at the same time, I believe. So I actually have three different fathers for my children, so two sets in each. Um, and so I have to juggle, a little bit of different things, also all in different age brackets. Excuse me. I got some teens, some tweens, and then, some little ones, some kiddos still. So it definitely is interesting. I'm a personal development coach, so that comes in handy. Definitely for sure. But yeah, I'm excited to share more in these five
Abs
questions.
Amazing, thank you. And I love that you said you have a range of ages, teens, tweens, and little ones. My goodness, I am right now with an 11, about to be 12 on Friday, and soon to be 10-year-old. And I'm already like the tween years are interesting. So, and we've got more to go, right? All right, so
Yeah,
first question for you, Roxana, is um I'd like you to share a pivotal moment in your journey as a single mother that shaped who you are today.
that's a great question. So I would say that, oof, okay, we're about to get a little raw here. So I want to say about five, between 4 years ago, there was a moment in my life where, I was going through a lot of different challenges personally in my relationship and, family, just a lot of things. And I remember looking at my kids and thinking, especially my daughters, and I was thinking to myself, I would hate to sit down one day with my grown adult daughter and have her, you know, either not want to vent to me or I'm trying to give her some advice when it comes to relationships or life in general. And she sits there and tells me, well, why should I take your advice? If you could have been all those things for yourself and you weren't.
So
So
basically the idea of knowing that now you were serving as an example to your daughter kind of
right.
woke you up a little bit. Hmm.
Mhm. And to
Hmm.
my other children, because I have two daughters and the four boys. But, as a woman, it hits a little bit different when you see what you're going through, and then you don't want your children to go through that. You don't want your daughters to go through that, and so you want to try to help them. But how could you if you're not helping yourself?
Absolutely. And we are our children's number one teachers, right? And a lot of the
Mm,
things they're learning from us without us with what they see and they're experiencing through us. So that's
absolutely.
great. Thank you so much for that. So, what have been some of your biggest challenges as a single mother?
So yeah, it's learning how to manage the emotions that come from being a single parent, trying to run the house. That's the cooking, the cleaning, the kids, the school, homework, all of those things, right? Aside from having to work and and then finding a moment for breathing. So that all requires like emotion from you and as your children. your children come into play. There's a lot of emotion that they bring that you have to learn how to manage them and yourself at the same time so you don't get overwhelmed. So the second part to that is I've had to include my kids in a lot of decisions. So I like to say that I hold these like family meetings. And although they're still small, because the younger ones are 7 and 8, and then the tweens were 11 and 13, and so there's there's the whole experience of being the tweens and all that comes with that, and the hormones and the changing of the mental and all the things. And then you have the little people over here who just want to play and everything's fun. And then the dynamics of being in this house versus this house. There's an emotion that gets carried there too. You have, oh, well, this is what I do at my dad's house, and this is what I do at my mom's house. This is what my dad won't tolerate, and this is what my mom I can get away with. So having the ability to see that and manage all of that has been a challenging, but also I've learned a lot because I get to include them in the household. I get to teach them, not that they have it all perfect, right? But I feel like I'm planting the seed that's just being watered consistently when I tell them, like, hey, we're a team, we work together, we do these things together. So that's like my biggest focus with all four of them is just reminding them that as we work together, our house will run smoothly and we'll get along a whole lot better and our emotions will be a little more controlled. Now, does it always happen? No. Okay. We're
Not like we
doing
hope, right? Not like we wish.
right. However, you're teaching along the way, right? You're planting seeds. You're learning how to water them. You're learning which one of your kids learns in what way. You know, you're taking that moment of like pause and really seeing them for who they are individually and then bring them together to work towards one goal.
Absolutely. I love the word you use, management, managing the emotions, the dynamics in the home, including them, right, in the conversations, in the decisions, understanding that there might be an unbalanced or balancing act, right, when they're with you and then they go away to the other parent, and then it's almost like restarting again because you have to remanage or make sure that you set your boundaries at your house. What happens at your house is different from the other parent's house, right? And that's something too, that we have to work on all the time and remain flexible with and be on top of it because sometimes, like you said, right, they'll try to see what they can get away with mom, right? Since
Yes,
since they got away with stuff at dad, so I get it. But I love how you've turned a challenge into a win, right? You're learning to do more than managing, understanding that that's necessary, but you're doing it, right? Of the time, the dynamics, and the emotions, right? Because kids, listen, I get it. It's like, yo, sometimes I'm like, I just need to like regulate my emotions first. I can't deal with yours at the moment. Okay.
yes.
Goodness. All right. So let me ask you this, as you know, you just mentioned the management of it all as a mom. How do you balance self-care, work, and parenting? And what advice would you give to other single moms trying to do the same?
I love this question. I really love this question. So the way that I manage to balance all of these things, because as we all know, we cannot pour from an empty cup, right? We got to be at least halfway to say that. I don't know. I don't know, but at least halfway. So there are time slots that I have for specific things that I will not and I refuse to like ever say that that's not important. So what I mean by that is I know that for me it's important to take care of myself. And I want to have energy for my children. I want to be clear-headed. I have a lot of things that I'm working on. And so in order for all these things to happen and for me to show up 100%, that requires me to pour into myself and personally, that's working out. I'm like, okay, does it suck in the beginning? Honestly, yes. Okay. But as you push through, you commit to yourself. You commit to saying, I'm going to take care of me because I love me. Just like we commit to our children. We take care of them because we love them. Okay. So we must
Yes,
do the same for us.
absolutely. First, do it first for us.
Right. So it used to be really early in the mornings, and Zoila, I know that we've shared that before. It was the 4 o'clock morning wake up and the working out, and I sometimes you have to pivot. Okay, it's not working here. Let me see if it will work here. So now it's the late night gyms, but I don't take it away because I know it's necessary. Also with like, any little thing too. If you enjoy reading, if you enjoy journaling, if you enjoy, like taking care of like skincare, things like that, learning more, whatever it is that it fuels you, you're showing that love and nurturing to yourself as the mother that we are. We're mothering ourselves. So it's important. At whatever time that you choose to do it, just have it and make it a habit, a routine that you never take away. Um, and then, well, in that slot frame, it's the work. Okay, so here's my time that I'm going to work. This is the time I'm going to have for this. During the week, we don't really do, I see what fits best for the family and the agenda that we have. We got our busy days. Everybody is kind of technically working because kids go to school, so they're working. So just learning what works best. Now, advice. It is not always going to be perfect, and it is not always going to work right off the bat. We're going to have to pivot and we're going to have to see what works, just testing things out. So I think that's the advice I would give. And when you feel like you don't know what the heck is happening, what's going on, you don't have answers, your kids are acting a fool, just just take a moment for yourself and understand that this is just it's temporary. It will pass as well.
Those
And we're just,
moments, those really
learning.
difficult moments when they are acting a fool and you're just like, Lord, help them, save, take care for them in this moment. So you pray for them
Yes.
because you're
Yes,
like dealing with so much. I mean, we deal with so much on a daily basis. I loved how you started that. Like, you can't serve others from an empty cup. And at least being halfway is important for us to be able to give the best care to our children, because it begins with giving the best care to ourselves. And it takes some testing. Take some testing out of strategies and practices for yourself. Like, what do you have time for in your day? What can you put in your day? When are the days that you're gonna have to put your kids outside while you take care of yourself? And maybe it's the time when they're out, away at the other parent's house versus being with you. Like, it depends. And self-care can be a family thing too, right?
yeah,
Like, how do
absolutely.
we care for each other, right? How do we consciously work on helping and being empathetic with one another? Kindness goes a long way with a family composition, right? And all that adds up to like self-care and caring for one another within that family. And that work and that parenting. Now, is your setup in the way where your kids are with you a certain amount of days and then they go away to the other parent, or are they usually always with you? Like, what is that kind of like parenting setting set up for you and the kids?
So for me, it's out of the six, I have two that are with me. Um, Majority of the time. Every now and then they'll go with their dad. and, visit for a little while, as we kind of see fit, what works for the both of us. For the younger two, those I do have set times or dates that they stay with me, and then they're with their dad. So there's that one is set and it's always the same.
Okay.
And then the older two, well, they've been with their dad, so they've always been there.
You're
Yeah,
like they've always lived there. No, that's good to know because then that means you're also handling two different type of structures, right? Like you're
yeah,
with, there's a set of them that's with you, then the other set's like, oh, whenever he can, or, como you use the word however you see fit. So that depends on the day, maybe the month, the season. It can depend on so many things. So dealing with two different type of people, I think that's also a challenge in itself. And I think that balancing of self-care for yourself is really key when you're handling and managing your household and your children at home, but also having to manage other personalities, right? That are the
right,
parents of your children. So,
right.
and that takes work, girl. All right. So tell me a little bit, or tell me what misconceptions you think people have about single motherhood, and what would you like to say to shift those narratives?
Oof, this is a good one. So, I think that there's a misconception that single mothers or single parents in general are actually single or divorced. They are not. We could be a single mom and still be married, or a single dad and still be married. Why? Because the other parent isn't showing up because they work or they do certain things. So the mom's role is to basically be the manager, the supervisor of everyone and everything so that they can do everything, making it feel like you're doing it all by yourself, which then translates to you are a single parent, parenting everybody else.
And I love that you said that because I'm in that boat where I was so I don't know what the word I want to use, but I was so stern on what the definition of single parenting was because of my experience, right? Like my kids don't go away to their father. Their father is not involved with them, not even for a call on a birthday or financially, nada. O sea, like I don't even know if he exists still, right? And when I started first hearing about women who identified as single moms but lived with another parent in the same house, I was like, there's no way you can compare the two because you've got another human in the house. You can make a quick run to Walmart or Target. Like, so I was like so fixed on like, you can't compare the two. You have another human that's helping you financially, right? You're living in a house that I'm sure you're sharing a mortgage. And the more I had to like let go of that and really listen to the women that were experiencing that. And I think that that's a misconception that thank you for bringing that up because I think a lot of mothers that might not be in that setup right now or that are in that setup are like fighting to be identified as a single mother, but other people are looking at them like they're not. And they might, they are if they are the ones that are doing everything and they are the only ones that are available for their children and all of that. So thank you for that because I think that was a misconception I had.
I mean, is it easier? Yes. At the same time, you can compare it to this. Let's say you got a single mom who has the other parent involved, or the dad involved, right? And they're doing the child support thing, and that's all they do. She's still a single mom. She's getting the support a little bit, but does she get support in other ways of the parent being there involved? You're not getting that. And that can be the same way in a relationship, for sure.
Oh, that's great. Thank you for that. That's gonna be a highlight for sure on this episode. And how would you how would you talk to the old me, right, with that misconception? Like what would you say to
Ooh.
kind of engage with me in a way that makes me kind of like become a little bit more empathetic with women who are married, living in the same household with their parent, with their partner and father of their children, but are identifying themselves as single mother.
Okay, so I would ask. So we're talking about the old you. Okay. If you were in a relationship where, you were doing everything, you were you were the cook, let's just put it for what it plainly is, the maid, the taxi. These are a lot of hats to wear, ma'am. You're doing all the things. You're bringing in the bacon. And you have your husband who also brings some of that bacon in too. Okay, so you combine it together, that's fine. But that's all he does. There's never no help with putting kids to bed. There's never no help with homework. There's never no help with crying, the diapers, the feeding, you can't even take a shower in peace. Because everybody's calling you. You have to
Yes.
wait till midnight to take a shower if you
Wow.
have the energy to do so.
Hmm.
So how do you feel at that point?
You all you had to say was you can't even take a shower because I remember the days where I couldn't even take a shower, girl. When these kids were little, now we can't even sit in the same room for more than an hour, right? But when they were small and younger, so when you said that, I'm like, I feel that, right? Um, but I've never had that other partner to understand what it feels like to have that other partner. I mean, we lived together till my youngest was a little bit under one. Um, So I haven't lived in a place of like we were together and I couldn't take a shower, right? It was definitely they were still little when we separated. And yes, I had those moments. So when you said that, I could connect with that mother for sure. Like, girl, what? Me neither, you know? So
Right.
that's great because money isn't everything and you can have a husband that's working and bringing in the money, but that's not everything. And we know that because of all the things we have to do in the house, right?
Right.
Mentioned. So my goodness, thank you. So single
Ooh,
mothers who I have judged, who identify as single mothers, and I was like, no, you ain't, you are. I can't tell you how to identify. But girl, our experiences are different. I think I was coming from my perception or my perspective. So, and
mhm.
you're rocking it for them because that's not your experience, and you are batting for them, right? So
Right.
let's make that
Right.
clear. Roxy is your advocate out here, okay?
Yes. Yes, I am. Let's more power to us, right?
Right, right. It's always us caring for other people. It's always us being like, oh, think about them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
right.
let's think about us too. A little
Right.
bit more.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. So this was deep, right? What legacy or values are you most intentional about passing on to your children?
Ooh, I love this one too. Speaking on the fact that we just came off of talking about teamwork, right? How I was teaching my children about teamwork. And then we're talking about single moms who identify as single moms even though they're in a marriage.
Mhm.
It's all about teamwork.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things that I wanted to be a core value. Stop thinking about yourself only and start seeing how you can show up to be of service, not to the world, but to your family. How do you show up saying, how can I help today? How can I make it better? How can I be of service? What can I give instead of what can I take? When you come from a place of what can I give, you get more. When you come from a place of what can I take, you take away from yourself.
That's deep. What can you give versus what can I take? And it's easy. I don't know what your experience is easier. It's a lesson that needs to be taught because I think I mean, in my experience growing up, like that had not didn't have to be taught because we had so little that we only had the only place we can come from was the giving
Mm-hmm.
place. Like give because even if you don't have, you give. But I feel like with my kids, I have to remind them like they have so much, right? And how can we come from a place of giving versus like what else can I get? Or why isn't this done yet? Or like why can't I have more of this? Like okay, but let's let's get to the other side. Like what can we give? And I love that you said like when you give, you said it perfectly, and I would have to go back on the recording. You said something around when you give to others, you give more to yourself, something along those lines.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Right. So when you give when you show up from a place of what can I give, you get more because
Mm-hmm.
you're being genuine about it. It's coming from your heart versus when you show up and you're from a place of what can I take? How can this person be of benefit to me? Then you're just taking from you because you're coming from a place of lack.
That's amazing. That's awesome, Roxana. And I think we're any last message that you can leave us with as we wrap this up because that was a perfect ending to all the questions we had.
The last message I would say is that remember that you were created perfectly with that perfect blueprint, like Carla likes to say. Okay? You were born with it. And whatever you don't know right now doesn't mean that you're not going to know it or that you don't actually know it. It just means that it's back there somewhere. So you're remembering, as you're growing and learning and connecting more with the creator, this is all coming out because that's how you were built with the perfect blueprint
I
and you're
love
figuring
that.
it out.
I love that. The perfect blueprint. Roxana, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence on this episode in the podcast, Two Kids, One Doctorate. This is your host, Dr. Soyla Quesada, and I will catch you on the next episode. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you.